applause for Village Keeper. I'm Courtney. I'm a lens-based artist and filmmaker here based in the city. And as a local Toronto filmmaker, I feel really lucky to be able to witness what I think is a renaissance in Black Canadian storytelling and Caribbean storytelling. I'm sure some of you have heard about like When Morning Comes, directed by Kelly Fife Marshall, and Bring Back It to Life by Sasha Lee Henry, and now of course Village Keeper by Karen Chapman. And I'm so excited and grateful to talk to one of the stewards of this renaissance, Karen Chapman, and I'm so happy to be talking to you tonight. And I think another round of applause is due. If you are unfamiliar with Karen's history, I will just give a debrief. Karen Chapman holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts from Emily Carr University and is an alumnus of the Norman Jewison's Canadian Film Center's Directors Lab, the BAM Center for the Arts, Women in the Director's Chair, the TIFF Filmmakers Lab, Accelerator, Every Story Lab, and the Mickey Moore Residency Program. Chapman's debut feature, Village Keeper, premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival in 2024 and won Best Feature at the Regent Park, GemFest, Minnesota, Arizona, and the Roxbury and Ridgefield Film Festivals. Let's give it a clap for that. Chapman was nominated for the Canadian Media Producers Association, Kevin Tierney Emerging Producer Award, and Best Directorial Achievement from the Directors Guild of Canada. That's incredible. Village Keeper was nominated for 7 Canadian Screen Awards, including Best Picture and Original Screenplay, and won the John Donning Award for Best First Feature Film. Chapman also won the 2025 Doc Institute Breakthrough Development Award at the Hot Docs Film Festival for her upcoming film. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us tonight. Yes, another one. All right. So, Village Keeper premiered at TIFF last September and was in theaters earlier this year. And I would love to know how it feels to now have this film out in the world.
Thank you, Olivia. Thank you all for coming, first of all. It is a Thursday night and the weather's changed, and so I'm always appreciative of people leave their homes to come out and be patrons of the arts. So I really appreciate all of you coming. It's been a wild ride. This film was made with a series of small miracles, and so I didn't anticipate any of this. We just kept applying for things and just moving forward, and so it's been a blessing. It's been I've had to stretch, I think, into a future me that is not as shy and that is a little more outgoing. But it's always really humbling to hear how much this film resonates with audiences. So that helps to keep me grounded.
Amazing. Yes. Okay. Yes. Village Keeper is resonant and so true to life, and so many of us have grown up in neighborhoods like Lawrence Heights or in Lawrence Heights itself, and so many of us know Jean. Jean is our mom, Jean is our auntie, and for some of us even our older sister. And I think so many of us are living our lives thanks to women like Jean, like to caregivers like Jean. And I think for that reason, and so many others, the image of a Black woman in scrubs is so familiar. And in reference to your representation of caregivers in this film, local film critic Sarah Ty Black says Village Keeper witnesses the truth of that reality that Black women are caregivers, while also pushing back against that expectation of Black women giving themselves over wholly at the expense of themselves, this innate demand for Black women to take part in their own disposability. And I found the last part of that quote to be such a perfect assessment of the role Black women play in their communities and in their families. And I think what's really revelatory about this film is that we get to witness Jean as almost like an archetype of our mothers and our aunties and our sisters kind of become open and receptive to healing and nurturing herself. And I would love to know if that was a journey that you saw unfolding in your real life, in your familial sphere, or if that was, I guess, a story arc that you decided that you wanted for this character.
I would say that this film was loosely and largely based on my mom and just watching everything that she endured, and went through laughing, and dinner was ready on time, and our clothes were washed, and we were clean, fed, and happy, all the while like nurturing her own broken heart, and I wanted to create a film that was happier than I think the ending that we had, because our family never made it into a room with someone to talk things through. And I come from documentary, and so the idea of writing something felt, I didn't even know how I didn't know how writers write. But anger is a big motivator. I think just seeing women constantly, not just here, but all over, just in harm's way in terms of abuse and not being listened to, and the shame that's around domestic violence, and it just the anger stayed with me, and I wanted to do something fruitful with it, and so that's kind of what pushed me to write. I'd never written anything really before that, but I think was something that I learned about documentaries is that if you create, if you just harness what's already there, that we are amongst storytellers, all of us, and we're around storytellers, all of us, and so it was a really wonderful opportunity for me to work with non-actors like Grandma Jean. Maxine Simpson is a retired ICU nurse. She'd never acted a day before in her life. We called her because the original actor, it wasn't quite working out. And she said, oh, Karen, if you think I can do it, I'll give it a try, And she was a family friend, and she knew my mom, and she was like, sure, I'll do it. 72 hours later, she had a script in her hand and she was on set. And so just wholly impressed about this force. Just because you can't do it doesn't mean, just because you haven't done it doesn't mean you can't do it. And I think that was really, it helped to push us forward. They say that fools stumble quickly towards things, and God takes care of fools, and we were taken care of this whole time. Like things we didn't know how we were gonna make it, but at every step that we made, a way was found, and so it led us all the way here.
And I think as filmmakers that I first think of crew and actors and the people that are helping me make this project alive, but I'm also interested in the we that are not professional filmmakers, like your mom and the other people in your family, in your community that had voices in this film. And I guess I'd love to learn a little bit more about like the conversations you were having with loved ones and the community that was helping you, like support you in making such a cathartic, emotional film.
I think when it comes to, so the other day my daughter, she's 11, she asked, Mama, how come we don't have a language? How come we don't speak a language? And that really stopped me, and my parents are from Guyana, and so I often find myself without ritual, without something that we do. There's just so much that's been forgotten, I think, and so somehow this film was a way for me to create this potential ritual of care in my life, but in other people's lives around me, because I didn't grow up around women who take care of themselves. It's just not something I'd push, but she wouldn't get a massage. I would every now and then it's her nails, but that's a topical thing. It's not something like taking the long way home or just pouring into herself as opposed to us and everyone else around her. And I wanted to see if we could, create our own ritual, if we could try to somehow untangle what we've seen and try to put something else in the world.
Yeah, I love that you talk about ritual. I feel like in a lot of ways, cleaning and caretaking and making sure everything is put back where it's supposed to. Like, I think in a lot of ways it's maybe like a chronic stress ritual. I think cleaning in a Caribbean household is very ritualistic. But I definitely hear you in I guess our mothers and our loved ones not being able to kind of detach from the kind of mechanized um, I guess, urge to clean things and make sure everything is set where they need to be. And I'm so glad that this film exists because I feel like it is a form of self-care, I think, to watch films and have your experiences be mirrored back to you. Um, I mentioned When Morning Comes earlier, and it's not my experience, but my brother immigrated from Jamaica at the age of 9, and I was like, oh my goodness, Travis, you need to see this, and I hauled him down to Regent Park at 10 a.m. in the morning, and he got to see his life reflected back to him, and I think there's something so transformative and healing about having your life kind of um, narrativized and romanticized. Maybe it's not the best use of the term, but just kind of um, lovingly told and unfolded and handed back to you. And I'm so glad that this film exists because I feel like I can, bring a laptop to my mom's house and be like, no, we're not watching, pimple popping videos on our phone. We are going to watch Village Keeper by Karen Chapman. But yeah, I wonder if your mom has watched it. I hope that everybody, goes and shows the film to the genes in your lives. But yeah, what has your mom said about this?
She's gone. Yeah, I never got her. She knew what I was up to, and I think something that was a driving force is that she wanted people to know what happened to her. She would tell people all the time, and I'd be so embarrassed. Like remember this one time we were at the dentist, and the hygienist was like, Mrs. Chapman, how did you lose all your teeth? And she said, my husband. And that it showed up in the film, but she was constantly trying to just have someone bear witness to what happened to her. And again, at the time, I was like, why? We don't know these people. But now I realize that it was her way of, I think the word justice is it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit into our lives in a way that's useful,
Would you say declare, like a declaration?
Yeah, I would definitely say like a declaration. It was something that she was doing, and I didn't understand it at the time until I kind of looked back and I realized this was something she had to do, and perhaps by doing that, she was helping set someone else free. Like there was just like you just could not stop her from talking about what happened to her. Not for pity, but almost as a way like I did this, like I've accomplished this, and you go home on the subway and you just don't know what people go through. You don't know how they're showing up. And I feel like mothers are these people that bear the brunt of all of these silences. They know where things, we call them, they know where everything is. They just hold so many, they hold so much together that it was an honor to be able to start a conversation about how we take care of them in return. It's one thing to say, oh, you should take better care of yourself, but I definitely think that we can do more to take care of our caregivers. So it was an honor to try to keep that conversation going. Did I answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. And I think what's really delightful about this film is that Jean's mother is the one that kind of is the example to move forward and to let go and to kind of integrate your I guess uncomfortable experiences to live a life that's whole and holistic. And there's a scene where they're both just letting it all out and screaming, and I think it's like one of the moments where I can't remember, Grandma Brenda, is it? Grandma Brenda is telling her story, and she is declaring and almost like apologizing to Jean in a way. And yeah, I feel like that is kind of like the opening to, or just maybe like an example of like caregivers seeing caregivers and recognizing each other. Because I also think there's a little bit of maybe like a lack of faith in the younger generations. It's very easy, I think, for my mom to be like, oh, I don't need to stretch. Oh, I'm telling her, like, you need to stretch, you need to get a massage, you need to do this, and it's easy to be written off, but I think what's so powerful is that these two women are kind of looking at each other with mirrored experiences and holding each other and screaming together, and I think it's so powerful and so needed, and I'm glad that it's in the film. I would love to transition to the more technical conversation about filmmaking. This film is at times wistful, it's whimsical even, and then there's also moments of suspense and like a looming sense of dread. And in the past, you said that you wanted to create a cinematographic style of shooting that felt like you were dancing on your tippy toes. And I thought that was such an interesting way to describe it because it does feel like that. But I think the idea of like dancing on tippy toes can connote so many things. It's like a childlike naivete and an earnestness, but also apprehension, of living around somebody who is chronically stressed and chronically worried and trying not to further upset that. So yeah, I'd just like love to know more about the conversations that you had with your crew who was like responsible for the camera's gaze and the mood and the feel and the editing and the sequencing.
Thank you for the question. I work with Jordan Oram, who, we never worked together before, but he had a lot of strong affection for the script and for the film and jumped wholeheartedly into the process. But something that was really important for me is for this to feel like a cinematic experience. That shot with family, mother and daughter on the wall. What if we could see our lives bigger than riding the subway? These mundane parts of our day that don't feel like they amount to anything, but they do, and just those ruminations of moving through the city and wanting it to feel, just wanting to give this character and these characters a moment that we see all the time, but just have their cultures be a little more specific, have the food be a bit more spicy, just a little more specificity. So that was really, really important to me. And so we talked a lot about how the film would feel and how we wanted folks to feel about it, but really we didn't have a lot of time. So I say, plan God laughs. We had 12 days to shoot, and so we were just eating pages every day, eating. I think our first day, we had like 4 locations or something. So we were constantly moving. So it didn't give me a chance to do a lot of reshoots. It also didn't give me a chance to be too sentimental. So it's like when I knew that I had it, I knew that, okay, if I've captured something or I feel something, then we've got to move on. And it's not ideal, but it kept us on our, it kept the momentum moving. We had the best crew. We had the best. My partners here, Enrique Benichet, 26-year-old boy wonder. But we just persevered. We had so many no's throughout the day. He would try to shield me from all the things that were going wrong. But Enrique doesn't know this. When he's stressed, he paces. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. He just like paces. He just goes. I'm like, do you want to tell me something? But yeah, we had this. I'm enthralled in the idea of jumping and not knowing how you're gonna land. And this whole process is that's what it is. Like I wrote this script and then I quit because I was a mom and making short films is not sustainable. And so I decided that I'm gonna go and get a real job. And I started applying to things and then I got everything that I applied for. I almost want to say as a reminder to myself to like when you show up for yourself, when you show up for something that you believe in, or when you have an intuition to do something, it's really important to follow through. And the how is important because I'm grateful that the how found us.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So many problems.
Yes.
like the van mashups, like Austin crashed the van. Like we get to a shoot and there's nothing in the room. I've got to we just.
And the baby.
Oh yeah, I was pregnant. I was 8.5 months pregnant while we were shooting, and so we were just moving very quickly.
Yeah, there's a sentiment about writing, specifically about killing your darlings and just omitting so much and letting things go. And I'm like, I don't want to hear that as a filmmaker. But yeah, I feel like it is a reality when you're on set and you just gotta push through. I think for me, it's always a moment of respite when you're finally in the edit suite and you're like, oh, we're here, it's fun, it's finished,
That's
and
not
can be
right.
right. Well, tell us about it. What was that like?
That's not what happened.
What was it like cutting it?
Really not ideal. We not ideal. We initially had an editor, and then we didn't. And so we had to somehow figure out how we would continue making the film. And so thankfully, I have some good friends, and I met someone that helped to kind of sew everything together. But that part wasn't great. We kind of just had to keep moving forward because we had several editors. I had to come on and leave and come on and leave. It was a busy time. I think it was right after COVID, so everyone was trying to shoot at the same time, which means everybody's busy. So we had to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that the problem resolved itself. We got an editor and it's edited and we all saw it. I'm gonna ask a delicious question. I think it's delicious. If there's one scene in this film that encapsulates Village Keeper, which one is it?
I would cheat and say two. I would say the scene.
I'll give you that.
Okay. I would say the scene where Jean, played by Olanike Delie, is speaking to her daughter, Tamika, or Zara, the actor Zara Bentham. And I think, and I'm learning this as a parent, that our kids know when we're hiding things from them. And they know more than they let on. And the same veneer that my parents had with me or I had with them in terms of not asking for things, that is a repetitive cycle. And so it was really powerful for me, for Jean to hear that her daughter knows everything and always knew everything and just was keeping I don't know if it's pride or whatever it is. It's just they never talked about what happened. And then the scene with Grandma and Jean, that's a mirrored scene where it's the same thing. Whereas, there's a lot of shame around people abusing you. There's a lot of shame that I think is not on behalf of the woman, but yet still they bear. And just hearing that conversation come out, I thought that was really powerful and not necessarily something that I'd seen in my life, and just something that I wanted to put on the screen in hopes that other folks could, and my future self could reach a goal to be that honest even when it's uncomfortable.
I would agree that those two scenes are very encapsulate Village Keeper, and I would love to tuck in a little bit more. What are you saying to Olanike and Zara when you're telling them, okay, you're gonna sit on this ledge and you're gonna have this conversation? Is there maybe a more meaningful, more earnest plea to have this specific type of performance for this really pivotal scene in the film?
Not really. I think we talked a lot. We played a lot of games before, and that just helped to make a complete stranger feel a little less strange, especially when you've got to act or work with people that you're not really familiar with. And at that point in the film, they both knew, and so I didn't feel like I had to say a lot, and I didn't want to impede on their creative process either. We just looked at each other and we was knew, by that point. And I say this, but the folks in this film have all had these experiences somehow. I don't know how that happened, but almost everyone, on screen or behind the screen has some type of relationship with the silences in our family, and so I didn't really have to say very much at all.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense, especially the daughters being the secret holders, the intuitive ones, the ones that see their mothers crying in the bathroom or overhearing them. So that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned before being a documentary filmmaker filmmaker. I also know you as a documentary filmmaker as well. And you've made work about violence in Toronto, specifically gun violence in Toronto, and the way that Black families navigate grief and the ways in which Black parents have to impart wisdom to their children, specifically about anti-Black racism in Canada. And I feel like all of these themes find rest in the offering of hope that is Village Keeper. And I wonder and would love to hear more about where you'd like to go with these ideas and these stories.
I think we all know that we're in trying times, and I feel honored to be a storyteller, to be someone who holds a story, because I think we need stories, and oddly enough, I find myself wanting to make things. Does anybody remember Sanford and Son?
Yeah.
You know, like all these shows that, or Desmond's. Remember Desmond's? Anyone? The show of England and Popeye and all of these characters. That somehow we don't know them, but they like balm on your wound, like Family Matters, and Fresh Prince. All of these shows, all these movies, all these things that stayed with you, and it makes me realize that we need to be aware of everything that's happening right now. We need to understand what's going on, but we need joy like water. We need respite. We need comedy, and so I never tried it. But comedy is something that's fascinating to me, because I think comedians are really intelligent, really intuitive folks, and I think we need some balm on our wounds.
For sure, definitely need some levity. I love a good laugh. I love a good knee slapper. My last question for you is, with everything that you've experienced in the journey of making this film and the journey of touring with this film, what would you say to the Karen Chapman that started the script?
Your questions are so thoughtful. I appreciate them. You've stumped me. I would say it's okay if it's not perfect. You know, and I think when you become a parent, you realize that your children aren't perfect, but you love them anyway. I know that film's not perfect. I could, but I don't think it matters. I think, and the striving for perfection is what stopped me from picking up a pen in the first place. I don't think it matters if it's perfect, if it has the same effect on people, and I think I can talk myself out of doing things because it won't be done properly, it won't be done right, and I'm realizing that, especially in art, it doesn't matter.
I received that as a filmmaker. If you're an artist or working on things, I hope you take that with you and chew on that, because that is so real. And
Just always try.
Yes.
Always try.
Yes.
Always.
And nothing will be perfect, but it doesn't mean that it's any less valuable.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making this film. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Thank you, Melissa, for having this lovely room and projector. And let's go home.
Is it time for questions? Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I don't know. Are we doing a
Anything
Q&A?
practical?
Maybe if you could just stand up and project if you're that loud.
Your hand shot up first.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Alicia. I'm actually making a short documentary called For the Love of Anna. I was actually inspired by your film to continue pursuing it. You're actually the first narrative film with Caravana in it. How did you pull off that success?
That was audacious, and we wanted to add more of that scene, but God's sticky. We just asked, and then we asked really nicely, and didn't hear anything, and so we just did it. Right? We just did it. And so actually, what was a big help was Sunline, the band that we played with. So what we did is we got everyone in the band to sign a release form. So everyone around signed a release form. was, as our lawyers advised, that was our due diligence in trying to make sure that we could, actually use the footage that we shot. And so how very carefully, but again, we just did it. We asked many times, but they were busy. They were like leading up to the event. And so we just kept going.
Yeah, I will say and add to that I loved that moment in the film as well, because I grew up hearing, oh, Carabana's not safe, and I wish my mom just put on a costume and went and just work out, it would have been a good time. So yeah.
And that was Olu's first time playing as well.
Wow.
It's the same, I wasn't allowed to play either, but then when I did, it's like if you've never played, it's hard to understand when you're in costume and it's mostly women and it's magical. It just feels like you're flying, and you understand that it's not just working out, but it's also this resistance, and that has stayed and that has maintained us. And so it was a lot of fun.
And I feel like I just, in my experience of researching carnival and the resistance that's inherent in carnival, I feel like I say broke out because I feel like I've learned that encompasses so many things of just like letting loose and shaking your body and being in your body and just like tapping into the ancestral presence that very much is in Caravana. Somebody was saying that I think another artist in another documentary that I was watching was saying that she never felt the Holy Ghost in church. She felt it at Caravana. And I was like, yeah, I believe it.
Where 2 or 3 are gathered.
Right.
Or thousands.
Some of us on a dance floor, not at
Yes,
church.
exactly. Yes. Yeah, when you hear those steel drums, man. All right, there was 2 over here. Okay.
I think your hand at the back.
Yes.
Hi. First of all, beautiful. My favorite scene was the cake scene for many, many reasons. But my question specifically is in regards to the writing process, because it sounds like this was your first narrative piece, which amazing. But I guess what I would like to ask is, was there a scene that was particularly, or not a scene, but an obstacle that was particularly difficult to verbalize and put into a script? Because sometimes when it comes to obstacles and also just like recognizing them, it's hard to actually admit that they've actually happened. Was there anything
it's funny now, but it wasn't funny back then. Because I never written a script, you write all of these things, and then on the day you realize, well, how do I show that? How do you show the wind gently blowing? Right, so you realize that there are very practical things to writing that I learned the very hard way. But a good scene and a good example would be that scene at Delici's, at the bakery, where that was exactly how it was written. And I was like, yes, we nailed it. But it's like, how do you show someone who doesn't give themselves a break, who doesn't eat things all to themselves? They go home and they share it. How do you show someone that's taking up space and not just write about it being an actionable thing? And so it was magical watching that happen, like exactly as it was on screen. And I'm realizing that there are ways that we can write to push those things forward. And I think it was because it was a scene that I wrote simply. I think that's how it worked. So the actor, Olunike, understood what was happening. She understood the stakes because she's a mother too, and she too has siphoned many pieces of cake off instead of putting the whole piece in her mouth first, or eaten last, or maybe even not eaten at all. And so I think because I wrote that simply, it was translated easily. Wow.
Thank you.
I have comments, and so is that okay as opposed to a question? So your brother was validated when he saw the morning after, and then your mom, the grandmother, your mom, when she's telling everybody about her missing teeth, that was taking back her power, right? So when you said that, that really resonated. Now, as far as Jean and self-care and all of that, it's almost like an infection where she's just kind of massaging out the pus, right? So the next start figuring out the self-care part, is getting the words to hold our men accountable, to say, hey, this is what's happening, this is how you're hurting me, so that they now can start healing. Because it's a mess. It's just a mess. This was an amazing movie, and next time, we need to have tissue under the
Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I was just trying to find, how do you find a way to not wag your finger at an old man, right? That is perhaps regretful, and how do we talk about hard things? So, yeah.
It's more of a comment. I think this film resonates with everybody in so many different ways. There's simplicity to it, but also very complex. Around the way in which one of the main themes, doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, or is the generational curse. That transcends everybody. Which what I thought was very powerful in this was that peace works in every single community, no matter where you are. So I think there's something in this film for everybody. Simple and complex at the same time. It's amazing.
Douglas!
Yeah. So I lost my mother recently. My mother passed away recently. And one of the things I've been reflecting on is in the journey of our lives together, in the immigration process, right? Our parents migrated. I mean, my siblings and I were born in Jamaica. And gradually, like many families, you came later, right? You came and joined them. And one of the things that's been interesting, it's kind of like my parents were very clear, oh, you've come to Canada now, you're going to become Canadian. You're going to let all that back there. But then what would happen is that as we do certain things, they suddenly chastise us by saying, what, you think you're Canadian? So there was this constant kind of bridging, this transnational kind of thing, right? So where do we fit? But the other thing was, as we were also sent out into the world to have the opportunities that, coming to this part of the world, you suddenly had this breadth of other opportunities to sort of realize things that they thought were going to be greater than what they were able to achieve, right? Options that they had. But then as we were doing that, one of the things that began to happen was a certain divide between us in terms of we're now being exposed to all kinds of things that they were just busy working, trying to create security and foundation for us, really so that we could go and do all of those things. But then when we'd come home then and have moments of clash, right? Of, because we're interested in now, like even the film and arts and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, no, banking and doctor and lawyer, right? Things that are clear and secure. So all this sort of, what is all this stuff? And one of the things that I have been struggling with is wishing that my mother and my dad, I had two dads, right? Stepdad and a bio dad, and both have left before my mom. And so, but it's been interesting for me to think about what it's like then to not have been able to share some of those things. So for me, one of the most powerful scenes that you captured in the film is when they're in the restaurant and she took out her book, and then her son took out his book. And I thought, that's it. That's that great moment of connection. So I love that you depicted that you depicted that possibility, right? For many of us and I think many of us are still struggling with that. And I don't think it's just about the immigration experience. I think it's just generational, right? Your parents' generation start to look back at, what is this that you're doing, right? The kind of music. And it's funny how it happens because now I hear myself saying things to my young nieces and nephews and think, oh God, I sound like my parents. Like, what kind of music that? And I don't understand what you're doing and why are you doing that for, right? So, but I love that there's that bridging that you created that really connects the generations and also those beautiful scenes between the mothers and daughters. Right, and I thought that there was a lot of that in the film, that it wasn't just simply trauma, it wasn't just simply, pain and loss. It was also about possibility and celebration of what's possible, and how they came to each other, even the grandmother with her daughter, and then the daughter with her daughter, the mother with her daughter. And it makes me think then about sort of, you gave hope. as you're watching the film, there was also hope. And I hope you feel that in your own life, because I'm hearing sort of your own sort of regret or sadness about also your mother's, leaving. And when you talk about her constantly telling people the story, I felt like was your mother also finding her own healing by speaking her truth and maybe not living in silence in a way, right? So I'm really appreciating how you captured all those narratives in this film.
Thank you for your question, Douglas. I'm so sorry to hear. This film has been such a gift in so many different ways and possibilities. I think I keep finding them, and I keep finding them in comments like yours, and just this idea of being a little braver with the people that you love. It's like some people find it easier to talk to like your workmate than people in your house. But what's actually happening with you, if you're riding the Uber, you find yourself being really intimate with this perfect stranger. And it takes some bravery to do that with people that you care about. And this film is constantly still teaching me things that I never saw coming. So thank you for your comment.
Anybody else? Okay, that will be the last one. Go ahead.
Can I just ask you to talk about the title of the film? At what point did you know that would be the title of the film?
So I had a friend named Greg Campbell, and he lived in Village, right? And my other friend Sheldon Murphy, they all grew up there, and they would all talk about this childhood, about like riding bikes up and down the street until dark, like a tennis ball on the wall. They just talked about this animated childhood in this place, and his family still lived there, and it just made sense to kind of name it after this community that held my friends, that I would visit every now and then, but it was very much like the community that I grew up in. And I was amazed to see that like the people in Village, or the people in these communities are more neighborly than folks in like Rosedale. Like I remember people knocking on our door all times, like 3 o'clock in the morning. When you knock on the door for a cup of flour, you're gonna get the cup of flour, or a spoonful of oil, or something that you need for the meal, money for bus fare. And these communities take care of one another, and have such a bad rap, I think, when it comes to society and what it means to advance. But something that this film taught me that was really important is that our parents, we work so hard to move up, to move out, to move away. Why can't we just enjoy where we're at? Can you not have a beautiful? Can we not be happy while being poor? Can we not be happy while living wherever we live, and just enjoying the fruits of your labor here instead of tomorrow? And so, long story short, but I wanted to name it after this place, that these communities that I grew up in, that taught me how to live properly.
It's such a perfect title, and I hope everybody in the room tells their village keepers about Village Keeper. And I'm just so excited to continue to follow the journey of this film. And thank you again, Karen. Thank you everyone for being here. And now let's go home for real, because I feel like we're running out of time.
The film will be on Crave.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
It's going to be on Crave tomorrow, so share with your friends. Scratch that.
If anybody wants to share the film, we post updates all the time on Instagram at Village Keeper Film, but the film is screening tomorrow at KMH Auditorium as well for World Mental Health Day. Karen and I will be there as well.
Amazing. Good night.
Please give a special round of applause again for Karen Chapman, and thank you all for joining us. If you folks enjoyed what you see, please scan the QR code on the screen. Let us know. Also, let us know what other films that you would like to see at Neoflix. We'll be back next month with a special short screening that will be presented by Jamal Berger, so definitely look out for the tickets for that. And of course, our art fair is in 2 weeks. So if you haven't gotten your ticket, please get your ticket for the art fair. Once again, thank you so much to Courtney Jackson as well as Karen Chapman for joining us for this month's media list. Everyone get home safe.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm just because I have to quickly go, but I just want to say,
Thanks for
finally, I
coming.
came to see the film.
Oh, I
After I
appreciate
met
that.
you at TIFF
Yeah.
many years ago, you remember? Yeah. So,
And then at that lecture at U of T.
yes, that's right. Beautiful.
That was a wicked lecture.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
There's so many little bits. That's why I had to comment on that. Guys, please sat with me because I was sitting there the whole time thinking, that's it. The opportunity to kind of, Mom, I'm doing it, but also her as an older mother, I also have that same kind of, and that connection. All right. Good work.
Thank you very much for coming, man.
All right.
What's your name?
Douglas,
Douglas Enrique. Nice to meet you, Douglas.
you too. See, I'm always on the job for you. And I see you and it's like,
Thank you.
you're like, where's your phone there? Where's your phone?
I really did. When you walked in, I said, okay, great. Documentation. I don't got to be down here with my phone because one thing about it, it's covered. I was like, yep, let him in.
Oh, you mean if I wasn't here, you would have done it?
Of course, well, but that's why I love when I see your name on my sign up.